Welcome, people of YouTube, to one of the Romanian Academy journeys, and the last of this 3-video series where we started with moods and tenses. This time we're going through the short yet crucial world of voices. No, we're not talking about pronunciation or phonetics or even accents. We're talking about some really cool grammatical ideas surrounding verbs. But Stefan, grammar is difficult. Yes, it is. But in this video, we'll not only make grammar sound like a 12-year-old comic book, but we will also tell you how the 3 types of voices in Romanian give a snapshot of your level in the language. If you like this channel or the content we provide, feel free to reach out or click any of the buttons below. Also, if you want to join our Discord server, the link is in the description. So, if in the previous 2 videos of this season we covered the tenses and the moods, links in the description and on the screen. Today, we are gonna cover the 3rd item of this trio, the voices, or in Romanian, diateze. If tenses cover the different ways the indicative works for past, present and future, and moods analyze the input you give as a speaker to an action, well, now we are left with a less complex yet remarkable topic, one that if you struggle with understanding the relationship between subject and verb, this is the right place for you. Voices talk exactly about that relationship, and it is easier than you may think. Hope you remember previously we covered the tenses and their level and difficulty, the moods, with a similar approach, and today we're gonna move to voices. And the first thing I need to mention, once again, voices dictate the relationship between who does the action, and the action itself. But many times we refer to action as verb. This relationship. There are 3 types of voices: active, reflexive, and passive. Now, maybe you have heard about the passive voice in English, or encountered already the reflexives in Romanian and cried. Here, at the Romanian Academy, we don't care about that. We want you to understand what all those titles mean and how they behave in practice. Now, let's go for a second back to this, the subject and verb relationship. What does this relationship between subject and action mean? For that, we need to show you a couple of examples. In the first sentence here, Ana are mere. It is quite clear that Ana is the subject, the one who does the action, and are is the verb or the action done by Ana. Are is in the active voice, indicative mood, present tense, which is also a personal mood, the indicative. So that means that you can spot straight away it is an action made in the 3rd person singular, either by he or she, so in this specific case, Ana. Now, moving on to the second example. Eu am fost crescut de bunica mea. I was raised by my grandma. The subject of this sentence is eu, of course. The verb is am fost crescut, all together. But the one who actually did this action right, is bunica. So this word bunica in Romanian is called an agent object. You might have heard about direct or indirect objects. We have many types of objects in Romanian. This one is an agent object. However, I don't expect you to remember this name, but it maybe helps you to think that in this particular voice, the passive voice, who does the action is not the subject, but the secret agent. And this is the action or the verb. So hopefully you get the idea that you can have the subject and the verb to match, like in the first example, or not, like in the second one. Anyways, there are some extra tricks that you need to be aware of that we will talk in a moment. To find out these extra tricks, we need to move to each individual one and see what all those voices are made of. Literally. The active voice really does cover all the moods and the tenses that we were talking about in the previous episode. All from indicative to the supine mood and from present to the more than perfect tense. I won't get into all details because you have the previous 2 videos talking about them. The only important mention here is that you have the personal and the impersonal moods. The personal ones have a subject. George trimite un pachet la București. George is the subject. And the impersonal ones don't. Am văzut frunzele căzând. Căzând here is a verb in an active voice, in an impersonal mood, gerund, but doesn't have a subject. Basically, all it does is describes the leaves. Here in the first one, when looking at the verb trimite, this is in the third person singular, so it can be any other he or she or name, like George. While this one again doesn't have a subject, it's impersonal. Romanian does not compute to say frunzele căzând or leaves falling by itself and mean something. You need to have a personal verb and then a noun to actually be able to make a functioning sentence. So one more time, we have the active voice with moods and tenses, and this is basically its structure. Under those moods, there are personal or impersonal ones which give a subject or not. Okay, the reflexive, the coolest of the voices, and not because it flexes, as the name suggests. The reflexive voice is built on the active voice plus a reflexive pronoun in accusative or in dative. So yes, we're talking about cases. So here, any action done in the active voice, specifically in personal moods, can be done either oneself or to oneself. In accusative, where we said oneself, we have this example. Mesajul se trimite singur dacă apeși pe buton. Se is the reflexive pronoun and trimite is the verb in the active voice. The message sends itself. I added here singur just to make it even more obvious. In dative, however, you remember to yourself. There is a sense of direction to the action. This is an arrow. Check the cases video if you don't get it. And finally, the passive voice. We already covered a bit of the passive voice in the example above. It is built with the help of an active voice personal mood. So one that can be attributed to a person or an object or subject, right? Plus a verb in the participle. And optionally, this is what the brackets mean, either de or de către, which is by, plus the agent object I mentioned earlier. Now to the part we've been all waiting for, the levels. When should you learn them and how difficult they are? And more importantly, what do they say about your Romanian level? Well, with voices it is quite difficult to put them into categories. But we'll give it a go. The problem comes in the form of the active voice and how much it varies. You remember from above we had a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 moods, out of which a few of them had variations, 2 or 3, and also the indicative, which had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 variations. That's what I mean by the active mood being extremely challenging. My suggestion is to add the passive voice and the reflexive voice in your journey through the active voice. So for the reflexive, I recommend you study it either right after the present tense, so maybe here, or after you have learned the present, the past, one past and one future. So probably more like here. And that is because you can have reflexive in any of those tenses. Once you get the idea in one or two, you'll get it in the others. So either here or here. That would probably give the reflexive level somewhere in between A1 and A2. However, knowing the dative reflexive, I would say it's an upper A2, early B1 topic, for sure. Now for the passive, I would say this is an intermediate to advanced topic, to be fair, because you will probably want to learn it when you're already comfortable with minimum 2 past tenses. So let's say you learned imperfect. You need all the past tenses you could learn to use the passive voice. Passive voice can be used in the other ones, but I'm just saying because it's easier and more relatable to English, probably you would like to learn a couple of past tenses before you get into the passive voice. So that probably gives the level of a B1 or higher. I know I avoided to put a level on the active voice, but that is because learning the active voice covers pretty much the whole spectrum from A1 to B2. From the present tense to the supine mood or supine. Now, about the level people think you are, it is all based on those levels I wrote next to each tense mood, or voice. Using verbs in Romanian is tricky, but that is merely half of the job. As I said a few videos back, from B2 upwards, it isn't about grammar anymore. It's all about how you use the language, vocabulary, slang, and colloquialisms. Use these last 3 videos of this season as a guide to structure your verb learning. But more importantly, practice it. Don't be afraid to speak. Listen and read in Romanian. Otherwise, you will keep this language as a museum item and not an interactive one. That's about it, guys. Join our Discord server if you want to get involved into the community or just drop some Romanian questions. It's free and the link is in the description. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you found this useful. Share it with other Romanian learners if you know any. And until the next time, la revedere!